Just go around the room here.
I'm here.
Here.
Present.
Here. Bob.
Here.
Here.
And nobody else here. Michael?
I'm online. Thanks,
Kate?
Eric.
You're welcome.
Kate's here.
Thank you, Kate. And I think that is it. If anybody else comes in late, we'll make the mark. So first order of business is approval of last month's meeting minutes. Does anybody have any? I know Jim's out beforehand, so thank you for that.
It was late. I didn't realize I was doing this go around. I forgot. Sorry, Kate, that I scared you.
Anybody have any?
I wasn't here, but I love the depth at which these were written, so maybe, just kidding.
A lot of typos in there, I hope.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
Peter seconds. And we'll go around roll call. I'll start to my right again.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I don't get to,
And
I don't get to know yet.
what would you have said? No, I'm just.
Yes.
All right, Michael,
Yes.
Kate,
yes.
all right, unanimous approval of the minutes. Thank you.
Is someone taking minutes now?
What's that?
Is someone, nobody seems to be writing.
It's recorded.
So you'll,
Yeah.
okay, go back and.
It's easier that way.
Right.
Okay, it is, first order of business is public comment. So I see we have some folks from the public here. So I'll open up the floor, just identify yourself and then the floor is yours.
Hi, Eileen Manning. I live at Riverside Drive and I'm also an RPPA board member. I just wanted to thank you all for having pickleball on your agenda today to talk about possibilities at Simon's Way. As you know, the courts at Memorial Park are still nice and busy. And RPPA has raised about $120,000 so far towards courts. And we have pledges upward of $30,000 pending choosing a site. And we expect that once we have a site, would be able to raise more money. I'm hoping that your discussion today can help provide some guidance to us on next steps. Sort of what does a timeline look like? You know, certainly we're looking for pickleball courts as soon as we can have them, recognizing there's other stuff going on at Simon's Way as well. But we are looking for some guidance from you all as far as, you know, timeline and what are good next steps for us to help move that forward. And, you know, I think there's general agreement in town that Simon's Way is the place for courts. So, you know, hopefully that can be solidified soon. All right. Well, thank you.
Great, thank you, Eileen. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Public comment. We have a temporary lighting request. The floor is yours, Mr. Pomodoros.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Peter Mendoza representing Ready United Soccer. Around here. Want to first thank you all for your support of us this past season. Worked out great having those lights down there. I think as far as the season concerned, springtime, there was no feedback from neighbors. I think we modified a lot of the stuff up front. Want to request the same permit for the fall season for the similar reasons that we'll have the fields during the week, midweek. And with sunset being more of a challenge in the fall, we have the beginning of the season, 7:19 sunset, right through mid-October at 6 o'clock, end of season, 5:39. Season runs through November 9th. And we've all age groups playing on Coolidge, including primarily the 5th and 6th graders. And again, we'll pick up the full charges for it and we'll work the same way we did this past spring. With the solar powered lights. Just want to request the extension or new rather for the fall.
Great, thank you, Pete. Just a quick question for you, Jim. Did we hear anything from abutters?
Sent out letters to butters 2 weeks ago. I got no emails, no phone calls, no responses.
And no complaints during the spring, correct?
No complaints, and it definitely takes a little bit weight off my shoulders, getting the kids out there more and opens up more field space for other group users as well, so I would highly recommend this.
Open for discussion here. Anybody?
I have a question. Pete, you were able to get the solar?
Yeah, you were, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good news. I remember you were looking into it last time and didn't know, but you made it happen.
Last minute, with a couple guys in our group who really buckled down.
Perfect.
Now we know if we get the permit request for grant for the fall, we'll book it right from now and just hold it for the fall
Yeah.
season.
That's great.
And there was no calls ever of lights being left on. It does happen at Birch Meadows at the softball field, and I don't think we got one phone call about the spring with the Coolidge lights on. So I think they have an automatic timer that will shut them off regardless at 10 o'clock. So that worked out great.
Nice.
Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Move to approve the temporary light request for Reading soccer for the fall of 24.
Perfect.
I'll second that. Oh,
Okay.
Did Angela second that or did?
pass it to Angela.
I'll make the call, Angela. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go around the room.
Yes.
In favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Angela, yes. Sorry. I just gotta keep doing it to you, Kevin. I just looking at you here.
Yes.
Kate
Yes.
and Michael,
Yes.
great, unanimous.
and you.
And me, yes, absolutely. I definitely approve of this, so. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Have a great summer, guys. Thank you.
Here, I want to thank him also.
Thank you for the fireworks.
Yeah.
Oh, the big team does that, big team. This guy here especially kept this thing together.
Seen a lot of people put it together, but it did it.
Support, thank you,
He's
guys.
the quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the quarterback.
All right, next item is signage at Bancroft, Bancroft Ave Community Tennis Club.
I'll give you a quick update. The signage at Bancroft has become somewhat old and it's starting to wear even just the basic rules and stuff. And then also, I think we need to get a sign there that's for tennis use only as well too. Nothing against pickleball. There are some pickleball folks that are coming in there right now as well, but there's also kids who are playing street hockey, bikes on there, rollerblading as well too. So we just want to make sure that the signage is proper there. There was also a request from one of the neighbors to get a wayfinding sign for the new bathrooms. So I'd like to get a signage that has where the bathroom facilities are located with an arrow pushing that way, talking about the hours as well and the seasonal times when they open up. Typically it's mid-April. And I think they're gonna be closing early November or October, depending on when facility decides that they think it's gonna be cold and they need to drain out the water so nothing freezes in there as well. We also need some signage for the new batting cage that's over at Simon's Way. It's going to replicate what we have currently over at Birch Meadow. Just talking about the rules and priorities, such as when the high schools have games, they get priority to it if they show up and there's kids there. The high school does get to use that if the public is there. Also, some new signs for some of the athletic playing fields as well. I know last week we mentioned some of the dog signs that went up there. I'm going to talk about that next as well. I do have some follow-up with talking to the assistant town manager and town manager about it, but they recommended getting some leash law signage up there saying leash law strictly prohibited on these athletic fields as well as the dog sign. So we're looking at ordering those through Ann DeChico sign, who's done I think the majority of the signage around town. So she called me today and I'm going to set up an appointment with her in the upcoming weeks to try to update some of our signage. I'll probably check out some of the other fields as well too, because I don't think it's been updated in a very long time. So that's what's going on with the signage.
Great. Any questions or comments about that? That doesn't include dogs or animals, because obviously he'll talk about that next.
Trust me.
We trust you.
I will pass everything by once it gets.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the update on the signs. It's important to get those, keep those updated for people, so.
Yeah, it looks great down there. Then you see some old signs or, you know, I think
Yeah.
tennis is going to put up their own signs for different stuff as well too, with the high school tennis too. So I might be talking with them as well in the spring. They do have priority early on. Right now, it's just a laminated piece of paper that goes up there and I don't really like that.
Fair enough. All right, next one.
All right, question?
Oh, no, or is it a separate motion?
No, I don't think it's
No,
a,
just a discussion.
Okay.
no motion, just discussion. And then next item is dogs and animals on athletic fields.
Yeah, so I think last we spoke, I've been getting a lot of calls about dogs being unleashed on a lot of the athletic fields. There isn't a current town bylaw that prohibits them from being in athletic fields. Right now, they are required to be on a leash. Folks aren't gonna be going into an area like Hunt Park with their dogs and keeping them on a leash. So I mean, we do have the right to ask them to leave if their dog is not on a leash. I reached out to Jane Wellman, the assistant town manager as well, to get some feedback on this. I know other towns are struggling with it and I saw kind of what they did. I reached out to Board of Health too, because it is somewhat of a health hazard with kids playing on the fields, and there are some mass general laws that the Board of Health can install some rules and regulations based off dogs leaving feces on there, if it's a risk hazard to employees. And I know one of our DPW workers has been bit twice. She got bit twice at one of the fields as well. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago as well. So it's something that's coming down the road, dogs. It's a hot topic. The Board of Health Director was looking at the cemetery bylaws, in which they do have bylaws that say dogs cannot be in cemeteries. And he was recommending that maybe we would go to the bylaw committee and we could possibly amend it to include athletic playing fields. And when I say athletic playing fields, I mean the actual playing field.
The actual field, not,
Not the outsides of the fields. Birch Meadow is a huge area. So that one might be a little trick, so brought it up to Matt Cronalis, and he's gonna follow up with me probably in the next week or so and kind of give me some input. But right now, they're kind of recommending, we kind of go off the leash law with folks who are inside ball fields with dogs off leash right now. We can hold them to that. And then the question is, who's gonna police this?
Yeah.
Is it animal control? Is it the police department? In other towns, it's been DPW and the rec department. I've been sworn in as a dog officer, and that was very Boston.
That in there, huh?
Try to train myself not to have that accent. But I honestly don't want to be that person. I'm kind of out and about in the community with a lot of recreational programs, and it would put me in a hard spot if I'm policing people's dogs. I love dogs myself too. I know people are passionate about their dogs as well too. And I know that they're gonna stick up for their dogs as well. So I'd prefer it not be myself policing this or anyone in my staff as well too. So that's where I am with that. I think it's gonna be something that's probably gonna pop up on the agendas, maybe every other month or so, but I'm trying to look into find a solution. I know at town meeting this November, they have the town forest, I think, is coming up in regards to dogs too. So they're I know that the town manager's office is kind of worn down with that right now, so I'm not sure if it's something we want to put on the November town meeting, or if we can go that road, or we just kind of stick with the leash law and do the best we can with that. So I'd love to hear some feedback or ideas on what you think might help or what not to do.
so my first of all, thank you for the update. My first question is, so when you talk about what is within our purview is not the school fields, or is it the school fields? So, because right now, there's no dogs allowed on turf 2, no dogs allowed inside the stadium at all, right?
Or on school property during school hours as well.
Okay.
Schools do have a policy.
Yep. So does that then also include Parker as,
Any turf field, I think, is an exception.
okay, so that's an exception that they can.
Turf field, there should be absolutely no dogs on
So
turf.
really, this is about kind of like filling that,
That's like grass.
that hole that we have with grass fields
Mhm.
that people are letting their dogs run free and.
Yeah, it's more so the
Yeah,
residential one.
Yeah, essentially.
The only field that's under the purview of the schools is stadium
In turf too.
and turf too. That's it, not Parker.
Mhm.
In our Coolidge.
No.
Oh, okay.
They love the fenced in baseball fields. That's where I see a lot.
Hunt
of them.
Park and Majors are probably the top two. And then you get to Sturgis where it's a little more residential. They'll be up there as well. And then also Morton
Yeah.
Field as well. Folks,
Why wouldn't the town manager be putting this in whatever he's talking about? We already talked about the cemeteries, and I think it was a year ago, maybe.
It's more than that.
So why, if he's talking about the, would you just say, the
Town
Town
forest.
forest.
town forest, why wouldn't they just add to that the baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, the fields, that's not extra work. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think he's saying no to it right now.
Yeah.
I went to him, I think it was about a week and a half ago, and he said he was gonna follow up with me.
Yeah.
So there's potential.
So I think it might be a good idea to stick with the leash laws right now and to try to keep dogs on leash. I think it would be, they shouldn't be running around. I remember, I don't know how long it's been since Parker went from grass to turf field, but there were a lot of people at town meeting who wanted to guarantee that even if it's a turf, that their dogs would still be allowed, they'd still be allowed to walk across it. And there was a lot of discussion like, oh, you're turning all this land over to turf and I can't even walk my dog on it. And people really upset. And I think that if you try to make all of these fields like no dogs allowed, I don't have a dog. I don't have a bone in the game.
Yeah.
But I think that there would be huge pushback. If you, I mean, I can kind of understand turf might be a different thing, but there was a lot of pushback in turning Parker from grass into turf many years ago. People were just like,
yeah, that was at least 10 years ago.
no, it was a long time ago, but people were like, what do you mean?
There's so many more dogs.
No, right, and so, but people were upset, because it's like, well, you're taking away grass, you're taking away grass where I can't even walk across it, and so when that went in, there was sort of an agreement that like, you can still walk with your dog on the field. Now, nobody's supposed to be letting their dogs run around unleashed, we should follow the leash law, but if you now go from, no turf field at all, to all, fields, that's gonna get a lot of blowback. And I just don't think we should go there. I'm not a dog person, but the more space that you take away where people can just, and if you are with, I mean, I understand I hate it when people are walking their dogs and their dogs use my front lawn. I mean, that bothers me, but.
Sorry.
What?
We just wait, actually, it's a stretch.
I what?
We just right in front of your house.
You what? Didn't know. So anyway, oh, right. I should be saying that. But anyway, so I think that like people should be picking up after their dog anywhere. So.
I think I fully agree with the leash law is the easiest path, because the other piece is like, what is the field? Like at Birch Meadow, like there's two baseball fields and then there's a giant field in between, no fences, and there's no nothing. And it's the only way to get from point A to point B in some cases. I mean, now there's pathways, so it's a little bit easier, but like realistically, shortest path between 2 points, it's a straight line, right? So, and I think that goes for a lot of the field, like Washington Park's the same way. It's, from one entrance to the actual park. You don't want to have to go all the way around. You want to be able to walk at least along the edge, and there's no real fence to what the field is there, unless you have an 800-foot center field. So I don't think there's a mechanism to keep them fully off the fields, but the leash law it's pretty straightforward. And it's enforceable as far as I understand it on the book. So fine perspective.
I think the thing is, you gotta be consistent, right?
Mhm.
You can't have one thing here, one thing here, and to me, like the leash law is kind of broad across everything, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, that would just be enforcing existing bylaws, right? It wouldn't require any changes. I mean, you could do two things. One, it's enforcement of the bylaw and enforcement of existing leash laws. And then if you wanted to call out specific fields, then you could. I think it's probably worthwhile.
I mean, that's what they're doing the town forest thing, right?
Yeah, and I think in the,
Ridiculous. I mean, the town forest should be the one place where you should be able to bring dogs.
I think I started.
well, side note, I think it wasn't.
It's the number of
It's the
dogs.
number of.
Number of dogs on leash.
It's
With
like
one hand, like-
people not going with like 12 dogs.
I think it's 2 dogs were allowed off leash.
Something like that. I look forward to a town meeting where we talk about that for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then it gets like 120 to 12. That's 100%. Yeah. So any other, any comments on this or recommendations that Jim could take back to
Eric,
that discussion? Yes, Kate.
Eric, thank
Go,
you.
Kate.
Just to jump in on everyone else's comments, when we've had this issue in the past, I think we've just asked animal control to, maybe up their visits on certain fields that we think are, being abused, that sort of thing. And that kind of curbs things, just to remind people, please use the leash law, that type of thing. And I also agree with Jim. I would not recommend that Jim be in any type of role as an enforcer on this.
Yeah.
And I did speak with the Reading Police Department. I don't know if when you guys talked about this prior, if they had an actual town employee that was the animal control officer, because when I spoke with them, that service is now contracted out, and I think they're dealing more with the rabid animal calls and not so much dogs. So I think it's a conversation I gotta have with them. I mean, if it is in the bylaw, there's gotta be somebody that's holding folks accountable.
Somebody.
And I would assume it's the police.
Yeah.
So I can maybe ask to speak with Chief Clark.
Yeah.
And I can report back.
Sometimes it's just walking onto a field, I don't know, if people gather at 10 in the morning, just walk onto the field, remind people once, please obey leash law. And I think overall people are pretty good about it. But, maybe everyone needs a reminder.
And maybe signage about picking up after themselves. We were at Washington Park the other day and we found a number of droplings in the outfield
Yeah.
as well too. So maybe there's signage that goes along with it as well.
Yeah.
Most people do pick up.
Yeah.
But when it's dark out at night and you don't know what your dog did, you're not gonna go searching for it.
Know if they were on a leash.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, thank you guys. That helps.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, pickleball court updates from Michael, and then we're gonna open this up to a discussion, so that we can, so everybody can kind of chime in on what Michael is going to inform us about.
Thanks, Eric. Just some background. Carl McFadden called my wife Judy and expressed some concern that the ICE authority was not going to approve lights at a location near the building. I think they were still thinking about the old temporary courts concept. And so we said, well, that would be fine. Would you be interested in at the back of the parking lot? And he said he'd be interested in that, and said we should meet at the parking lot and show what we were thinking about. And so I met with Carl when Jim came, invited Eric, Judy was there, Peter was there, and Mary Ann was there, and Ed, what's Ed's last name? Ed, the manager of the ice rink. So we met and we said, we were thinking of that at the back of the parking lot, closest to the rifle range, might be a better place. And they were sort of oh yeah, this is much less impact on our operations. So this is just with Carl McFadden and Ed. That's not the ICE authority. So we were asking them what sort of next steps are there, and they said, well, what they really need to do is have the select board talk to the ICE authority and find out, sort of what things the ICE authority and what things the select board is thinking about and what things the ICE authority might consider changing the lease for. So that's sort of where this discussion was, that we were going to ask Rec to try and talk to the select board and say, there's lots of things on the table, but until we really find out what the ICE authority is amenable to and what conditions that they would take, it's hard to assess some of these things. Of course, pickleball is one of the many options that came up in the SWEC discussions and other things. Recalc is primarily focused up to this point on the Zanny land, but clearly they would be a close abutter and would change the campus at Simon's Way. So they think they would like to have a discussion. So that's really what we were coming to rec, is to say, can we ask the select board to find out what the ICE authority would be willing to do, or what they're interested in. You have any questions about any of that? I tried to make that clear, but I'm not always clear.
Yeah, no, thank you, Michael. And I think it's really promising. I think it's important to just keep having that dialogue with the ICE authority. I know Carl was a great conduit for that, obviously, given his representation of the ICE authority to the select board. I'd had I know I've talked to Carl as well and expressed my own personal support for pickleball courts at Simon's Way. I think it's 100% the best place to be in town. My 2 cents. I know, I appreciate your.
We're fundraising, Eric.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I also appreciate your comment that, recognizing that it's important that the select board the select board needs to spearhead. And speaking of which, good timing, Carlo. Select board really needs to spearhead the conversations with the ICE authority in order to kind of identify what options there are. And obviously the select board will have to consider Recalc and SWEC's recommendations, and what if there was an option of doing pickleball courts sooner rather than later, how would that impact potential future development and or trying to align with these other projects? So I think it seems like a pretty simple, straightforward thing, but obviously it gets complex once you start getting into legal documentation with the ICE authority, and looking at the other competing interests. But my personal thought is I fully support pickleball courts there. And if it's something that can get done that does not get in the way, or would not adversely affect future development of spaces for SWEC or Recalc, if those were chosen spots for other development, and that would be a good win for the community, I think. So, but open discussion and want everybody's thoughts.
So just to clarify, the ask is to obviously ask to the select board to open discussions with ICE authority.
Yeah, so I had and I had mentioned to Mike that I would have a hard time putting a vote here at the Recreation Committee, because it'd be hard to vote on something without knowing what the context of where they could potentially go. And like I certainly will express my support, but it's hard to say like we vote to fully recommend pickleball courts unless
somewhere over there.
Somewhere there, right? It would have to be kind of like, please explore the conversation. But I also don't think we need a vote to kind of like ask Carlo as the select board liaison to, kindly put it on to a future agenda to kind of have that conversation about. And Carlo, maybe you can chime in with, is there a time in the near future where the select board is going to start to have conversations about the options at Simon's Way?
Yeah, so right now, if everyone doesn't know, permanent building committee has been engaged for the active building center. So now they are tasked with So there's gonna be a recommendation from Council on Aging and from ReCal on their preferred site. And now Permanent Building Committee is gonna look at those 3 sites and come up with their recommendation. So I think what's gonna happen in the very near future is soil testing over at Simon's Way. Because that's been the red herring, is we don't know how clean the areas that we bought, not the whole complex, the area that we bought from the design review. So that's probably gonna make the process a little bit longer. But from what I read from the agenda, the ask is putting pickleball on the Reading Ice Arena property. Right, is that what I read?
It's a discussion.
Yeah.
So we're just discussing.
Yeah.
And ideally kind of trying to figure out kind of like, you know, hey, what are the potential solutions? What are we willing to kind of voice your support? And ideally, yeah, kind of, you know, have you as the liaison kind of bring back to the select board and say, they've had discussions. We think that it's time to really like actually have a conversation with the ICE authority. What is feasible, what's not.
Right.
And then you can take that information and really put it into the context of all of these other things that are happening at the same time.
If Simon's Way gets chosen, then we're gonna re-engage with Edge Sports.
Yeah.
So, and to see if they're willing to incorporate an aspects of a active living center into the building.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can be determined right away, but anything is years away, right? With the capital S. So I think the pickleball community, which I'm part of, you know, wants to get dedicated pickleball courts because it got kicked off the Birch Meadow master plan. And everyone is agreed, Simon's Way is the place.
Yep.
Everyone, right? No denying it. But if we're gonna follow the process, it's years and years away. So I think I know what they want to.
So are they asking to dust off what was already presented in the winter? Where the temporary?
I believe so. Michael can comment on that.
Because I heard that because it was temporary, that limited or negated some of the donations.
Yeah.
Michael would have more context.
I think that the concept that we're really talking about is not temporary, but a synergistic treatment of the site. So, you know, the Edge Sports, the Recalc Center, the ICE Authority. This is going to be, you know, a recreation complex. Most of these proposals all talk about pickleball courts. So what we're trying to say is, let's put them in a location now, because we can do this pretty quickly and accomplish that piece of the grand scheme of things. And they would be public, dedicated pickleball courts that are available to anybody in town without charge. That may not be Edge's business model or anybody else's business model, but I think that that's really what I think all the donors are really looking for. Recalc, I think, would really see great benefit in having pickleball courts as a synergistic, you know, another activity that seniors and other people in the town can use that's separate from the actual facility. So Recalc is thinking about the actual facility that includes the building and parking and all. You can't put any pickleball courts at Pleasant Street, and you certainly can't put pickleball courts at Oakland Road. Simon's Way, you could put pickleball courts somewhere on the site, independent of where you actually put a building, depending on what agreements you can make with the ICE Authority about the use of the parking lot. So we're not talking about temporary courts anymore, because I really think that that's not a very good sales pitch for our donors. And I don't think it's a good idea long-term for the town.
Can I just ask real quick? Carla, you can refresh my memory if I'm wrong. Did Edge say that if they were to do something, they wanted that entire back parking spot in place? And if they didn't get that, they were kind of out?
No, in a perfect world, that would be part of their project,
Mhm.
that dry, flat parking lot.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world. And then we're saying, well, that's, not for us to give you right now, that's a negotiation and this and that. And at the very end, before we couldn't move any further, we're saying we're open when you guys are done with the feasibility study and all these things you had to do. We won't, we're not saying, because they were talking about, another sheet of ice, aquatic center and this and that. And they're trying to monetize things, obviously.
Yep.
It's a business. But they never said, or I never heard, we're not willing to work with you on the Zani property,
Okay.
the 2.5-ish acres. If that works for us
Mhm.
financially. So once we get a site selected for the active living center, then we'll go back to Edge and say, are you interested or not? And I say, well, can we have ice arena land? Hopefully I get an answer,
Mhm.
or we can get an answer. And the stage, no, one we can't. Okay, we're not interested. Yeah, yes, we're still interested, even though we can't
Yeah,
have that.
yeah.
So it's gonna be a process with them.
How long, and then I'm coming to you, Angela. How long until we have, I mean, not the building and any of that stuff, but that just get to the point where we're actually asking Edge?
That's it, PVC has it now. And if we're gonna do a phase 1 environmental test, which is, we're not gonna bore any holes.
Yeah.
You're just gonna look at what was on the land, look at the history of the land, look when the government had it and all that stuff. And then determine, okay, it's inconclusive. Now we're gonna drill holes and do soil testing. Phase 1 is just paperwork.
Yep.
And, pictures and walk on site. Phase 2 is, drilling down to see if there's any contamination. So can that be done in a matter of a month or so if you hire a company? Yes, it can,
No.
but again, permanent building committee.
No, it can't. Do I see Mary Ann Devlin in the building? Yeah, she knows. Phase 2 doesn't take a month.
No. Phase 1 takes 3 weeks, maybe 4. Phase
Correct.
2 will take you another 4 weeks. They have to send it to the lab and.
Okay, yes, okay, whatever.
But even in the context of, I mean, we're talking like maybe we're having conversations with the Edge and the Ice Authority this year.
I hope
Okay,
that's the goal.
okay, that's helpful. Angela.
So SWEC presented, and I think we all saw what it was. The idea that if something is chosen, we would just go back to Edge and say, work with us, was not anything that was a recommendation of the SWEC. It's not something that I had thought of. We put out a request for information, not even a request for proposal. So there is no, we're just going to go back and start working with Edge. I don't know where that idea came from. It would be something else that if there was a proposal or if there was an idea, it would have to go back out for a request for proposal. We had several different schemes, do something easy, do something larger, but a few of the people who are building people, Heather Klisch and Nancy Toomey from CPDC and the Permanent Building Committee were the ones who were really saying, we need to have a master plan over at Simon's Way, that we just can't, put something here, especially in the middle, the parking lot, and just try to build around it or something, especially if Mike Coleman is now saying, no, we want something permanent, because what we heard was from Edge, that flat land is the most desirable. So I know that there's the idea that, you know, that something could be built on the original SWEC charge land, which is sort of over the side, the original Zani property. But we expanded it because it was thought, well, this is good land too, behind the arena. And it was thought that that was the best land. So if somebody's going to put a building there, it would probably be there. There's also, you know, I'm not sure what direction. There will be lots of ideas about whether or not we end up with a community center or a senior center. I think that with these financial discussions that are going on with Killam and a senior center / you know, that maybe it will be a community center is not what gets built. Maybe it ends up being a senior center at half the cost. These are all things that the town has balls up in the air. I think we've all said that Simon's Way is the best place for it, but I just don't see how we can, as a committee, go to the select board and say, please open up talks right now when all of this is up in the air. And the only thing that we do know that Carl has said is that unless there is a replacement of the parking, it's not going to happen. So it's not just figuring out pickleball, it's figuring out parking, it's figuring out what all of this is. So, you know, if the select board decide to take this up on their own, then they have the right to do that. But as far as this committee making a recommendation or an ask for the select board to do that, I'm not in favor of that at this point with too many other things. And it wasn't something that SWEC, you know, had decided. We made our presentations and, you know, Edge Sports, you know, just calling them back up and saying, we're ready to work from you wasn't one of them.
Yeah, fair.
So Carlo, I know you don't want to do temporary, but you want to play pickleball now, right? I mean, isn't that can't we call, if you call, or Michael, call temporary to become permanent? I mean, no one's gonna say 6 years from now, you can't have pickleball anymore.
Well, you know, that's what got us down a rabbit hole last year.
Well, we're way down a rabbit hole right now, because what Carlos suggesting is gonna be, you know, several years out. You want to wait that
and I would
long,
like to,
Michael?
I would like to address that. So right now at Simon's Way, there's an ice authority, there's a baseball field, and there's a soccer field, and there's a batting cage, and there's some space at the far end of the soccer field. It's probably a little, like a quarter acre that you could do something with. I don't know. That's all existing stuff. There's leased land that covers this whole parking lot. The ice authority is willing to think about other uses for some of that parking area, so long as the parking can be made up on the 8 or 10 nights of a year that they have a big event. So I think, you know, when we talk about having a master plan for Simon's Way, there's already sort of a master plan for Simon's Way, because there's a baseball field, soccer field, parking lot. And now, you know, we talk about the Zani land, that's 3 acres of land that you could put a nice facility on there. It's pretty flat too. I don't know. I actually walked it about a month ago. It's mostly flat. The whole thing is just a few feet above the swampland that's not buildable. So, you know, the parking lot is flat. It's probably a nice place to build something, but you can't build something very big and still have a parking lot back there. And whatever you build, you have to have the parking for it. So when we talked about recalc, this Center for Active Living, they're talking about needing on the order of 90 parking spaces or more. And this is one of the big problems with Pleasant Street, doesn't have enough parking. So when you have that kind of parking, and for big events, they would need overflow parking as well. So they would probably want to talk to the ICE authority and say, oh, when we have the St. Patrick's Day supper lunch, is it okay if some people park in your lot? I think there are a lot of things that can be done. My opinion is that once you choose a location for something like where the baseball field is, or the soccer field, or pickleball courts, or where the ICE authority is, that's not going to be temporary. You then say, oh yeah, and when we want to put in a building, it's going to go here. And I think where recalc has the building is probably makes the most sense.
Kate, did you have your hand up?
Which is on the Zanny land.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I think as everyone knows in the room, temporary in municipal world can mean a lot of things, but probably for the most part, temporary is pretty long term. So we have a pickleball community that's active, that's actively raising funds, has quite a bit of money now, is motivated to build. We have an organization, if you will, in the ICE authority that is willing to work with them. I support what Angela's saying, that I don't know that we as a recreation committee should officially go to town, to go to the select board and say, you know, we recommend this. However, personally, I kind of feel that if those pickleball courts can be built towards the back end of that lot that Carl is talking about, and in my mind, temporary, they could probably be there. Who knows when all this is going to get built? It could be 3 years, 4, 6, 10, you know, we could not be here and the thing's still not being built. But my point is if those pickleball courts are built now, and they're temporary, which is a tough sell for your fundraising, but you seem to be on your way already. Whatever is decided to go there, quote, permanently, like say, okay, we're going to put the senior center there. I don't think they'll take pickleball courts down and then just that's the end of it. They'll say we have to relocate them or improve them or something like that. But it's kind of like, you know, we know how government goes. If you like, roll the ball onto the court, and if you can build those courts in the kind of on the boundary of land, maybe they survive any new improvements, and if they don't, they should be part of whatever is being improved there.
Kate basically just said everything I was gonna say. I think it's worth, you know what, you raised 120 grand, Mike. I think it's worth the gamble of them being, you know, to get the, you know, if everything works out, you get the courts built. You've raised 120 grand, you're not spending it. At some point, people aren't gonna donate to you if you're raising this money and it's just sitting there. It, you know, my experience, when we point to something, we fundraise and, you know, it gets built, that just, it makes people more likely to give to you down the road. You know, my 2 cents.
Right. So I think that, you know, I appreciate all this, the comments, and really the ask today is how do we go forward? What path should we follow? The reason for asking for the select board to talk to the ICE authority is to find out what's really what's really an option. What's the ICE authority willing to consider? And if we need to call it temporary, I think that's not a really good idea, but
you're gonna have to figure that out, because anything other than temporary is.
The finance
Carlo
got it down because it was temporary.
Well, What's temporary though?
Well, I'll agree with that.
Temporary,
but
as
they said
Kate
you can't
said,
have
is probably
temporary.
6 years,
I think they
right?
said they wanted to see more skin in the game, and
Yeah.
I think there's more skin in the
120
game.
grand,
The
150 grand.
donation.
I mean, the difference between, you know, a year and a half or so ago and now is that, you know, the pickleball community has followed through with their commitment to raise funds. And it makes, to Bob's point, it makes a more convincing case to, like, you know, maybe you do explore it. And I think one element here is, you know, no committee is all powerful. It's not like the select board and pickleball is waiting for Recreation's blessing to go have conversations. You know, I mean, the select board is already, and we talked about it, select board is already on the path to having conversations. So whether we recommend it or not, like, those conversations are gonna happen.
Yeah, we need to know, we can talk to blue in the face.
Yeah.
And they can say, the only way we're gonna do anything in this lane is work with the pickleball people. Edge can go pound sand, anyone else who comes to us, no, we're committed to this. Honoring Nelson Burbank about recreation, we're willing to do this and this only. That's what we need to find out.
Yeah.
If they say, we'll do this and talk to Edge, then I don't have that answer. You know, it's a conversation that we don't know what we don't know. So the fact that they're working with Carl and the Ice Rink Authority, I'll put it on an agenda, talk about it. What do you think amending the lease means?
Yeah.
Is it open for everything? And the building, or is it just for pickleball?
And there's also the element of once that conversation happens, if they did say it, you know, we'd like to see we would be okay with pickleball courts. But then it comes to the town and we say, it's still our land. Right? And who's gonna run it? And I think the agreement would have to be that the town is running that specific part of the,
I would think so.
right?
Yeah, I think
So,
it's easier with more courts as well.
yeah, so.
I think that's consistent with what Carl is thinking.
Yeah, the conversation with the ACE Authority is.
That's key.
Is the first step for any.
Because,
I was gonna say, I think it's the same
I
problem.
was gonna say that we can't really say anything because we can say, yeah, we do it, but the Ice Authority kind of controls that land, it's in their lease. And they have to kind of say, yeah, we're going to talk, and here is
Yeah.
what we're thinking. You
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
ultimately, this is why I said why we're not taking a vote, right?
Right.
We're having a discussion
Right.
because it's good to have a conversation and understand what the parameters are.
Yeah,
And what's happening at select board, what's happening with the ICE Authority.
yes.
But yeah, I would not take a vote right now because
You don't know.
I don't know what ICE Authority wants to do.
Right, you're right, you're absolutely right.
So can I just logistically, and I think this might cover your concerns, but also Mike's. Carla, you're gonna give a liaison report back to the select board.
Yes.
This all just comes into play. You're probably gonna say, let's talk to the ICE Authority, right? Like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening anyway. So-
So. And talk about future agendas.
Yeah, and then it gets put on at some point. So,
Who's due to talk to us.
Yeah.
Over some.
so I think we're in a place where we don't have to make any decisions or recommendations at this point, if I'm understanding the sort of logistics correctly. Because just by Carla being here and being able to bring this back, the conversation is being brought back as opposed to any recommendations.
Well, then it should say that we passed it back to the select board and it's their decision. Because I don't think that we're making any recommendation.
Not at all.
But I don't think you should let Recalc or SWAC or anyone else slow you down. The pickleball, it should be a negotiation between the Reading Ice Authority and the select board.
If it's within their borders, right? That's the idea, yeah.
Not don't have them all weigh in because it's just gonna slow it down and the pickleball community's waiting to play pickleball.
That's the angle. There's 20 years left in this lease. Which we have for 10, they have an option for another 10. So they're there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Minimum.
So then what was the point of SWAC meeting for a year and a half to make recommendations for this land?
But it's the land outside the.
No, it's the entire thing. It's part of this. This was the recommendation, it
Charge change.
expanded, the charge.
Cause like when I run from the map, it looked like it was everything, like everything that was recommended as the three recommended, or as the
No,
recommendation.
it was.
Outside the parking lot.
Our purview was all of this, including what is back there. So all of our recommendations, we examined all of this land and spent a year and a half to make
Right.
recommendations to the select board, only to be back where we were a year ago.
No, you made your recommendation.
No, well, the recommend, that's,
They just
still,
haven't
oh,
done
that's
anything.
just keeping it on separate tracks.
Right.
Ice Arena
That's all.
always held all the cards, always.
Yeah.
With Edge and with pickleball. So it's up to the Ice Arena Authority, not you guys or me, to tell us what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
Regardless of SWEC, regardless of this committee, it's, the Ice Arena's gonna say yes, no, this or that. And then you have another conversation about what that means and what they're willing to agree to. To amend the lease has to be agreeable to both parties.
Yeah.
Not just us, has to be agreeable to them. That's what an amendment is. So no one's forcing anything. You have a conversation and you see where it goes. And like Chuck said, it's Ice Arena's land for 20 years, no matter what you look at it. That's it. And if they're willing to talk about pickleball and amend the lease and the select board agrees, then that's what happens. I don't know the future, but that's what these guys are talking about.
And
If you're on this, if you're a member of the select board and this conversation starts, wouldn't the natural question be, well, what does the recreation committee think? So that's why I think, so should we talk tonight about, there's an option to have a formal vote, there's an option for an informal recommendation but just to try and save the whole pickleball thing, they seem to be, they get so far and then it's like, oh, go talk to this one. Then, oh yeah, go talk to that one. So can we help them as a committee to, kind of form some opinion to offer to the select board so that they don't have to take another month plus to come back to us for us to have this discussion again and have a vote?
It's right, you guys are gonna come up.
Yeah, we can't vote. It's not posted as a vote.
But we can't vote today for sure. And I don't know, again, I don't know what we'd be voting on. Other than kind of saying, giving like, our spirit is, yes, we would like pickleball court somewhere at Simon's Way, but we reserve the right to pull that vote back if we don't like the context of the ICE authority's demands or where they want to put it or how it affects. I mean, we do have SWEC, which the SWEC recommendations is something that could significantly benefit the entire town. And, so I would hesitate to say like, yeah, put pickleball courts anywhere, without having some context of like where we think the other recommendations might be.
What the rest of the layout is, right? Like that's kind
Yeah,
of.
I mean, we own potentially buildable land. Those tests, we're gonna test the land, we're gonna get to soil testing, we'll get better context of like what's possible there. And then, if that is land that can be used for recreation fields, a building of some sort, awesome, great. And then, we could potentially do whatever it was, a little bit or a little bit more. I mean, all the different
Right.
things, you can then say, all right, this is what we have to work with, regardless of what the ICE authority says, right? We have space to work with.
Yeah,
It just,
but I mean, the overarching
yes.
idea was come up with a plan instead of just,
Piecemeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay, anything else? Anything new on this?
So just one separate item that's not really related to this, but I was actually wondering whether maybe next year we'd get bathrooms at Memorial Park. We had them a few years ago. They are no longer there in the summertime, but.
Where were they located? Do you remember where they are by the corner?
They were actually down the hill towards the main part of the park.
Or the parking lot?
There's just one porta potty, but yeah. But.
How long ago was that? And why did it disappear? Do we recall?
Why don't you guys talk about that offline? That's like an operational thing you guys can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to look.
I'll try to find more information about it, but there is a need.
There has been a need.
I agree.
All right, cool. Thank you, everybody, for the conversation. That was
But
good.
just one final thing, to come up with this master plan for what we're going to do, where to put anything on Simon's Way, you really need to talk to the ICE authority and find out what their game is. And so that was what I was encouraging.
But to that end, having a more definitive answer about what could possibly go there, rather than just the first thing they're asking about, that, to say, would the town want to ask them to put something else there and put pickleball here? So it's not just, that was the point of SWAC. It's not just first guy to the spot. That was the point of it.
Right. And pickleball did come up high in the things, and it was included in all the SWAC plans. So it's somewhere on Simon's Way, I think, is the right place. Pickleball is 4/10 of an acre. The Zanny land is 2.7 acres. The soccer field and the baseball field are 5 or 6 acres. Another playing field is not going to fit anywhere. So, but that's,
Okay.
I was just asking, saying we really need to find out what the ICE authority is willing to entertain.
Thank you. All right, next is update and potential discussion on ad hoc Community Preservation Act study. So as you know, I think a couple meetings ago, I was appointed to be part of the ad hoc. So long, folks. Have a good night. The ad hoc, the Community Preservation Act group, and I just wanted to give a quick update. First of all, people broadly know what CPA is. So
I'm a little more familiar with it now. I applied for the large bid.
So essentially, it's a surcharge on your property tax. So not your total assessment of your house. It's just the property tax. That ranges from 1 to 3% that the town would levy, and take those funds, put it into an account that would then potentially get a match from the state of a certain percentage that can be put towards various projects in preservation, and housing, and specifically recreation. Right, so there's a lot of great recreation opportunities here. So it's a way to, if we are already going to want to spend money, the way I think about it is that if we're already going to want to build a new field or build pickleball courts or build a dog park, then it's a way to is to have money that we are going to get allocated. We're going to find a way to get allocated one way, and then have the state give us some matching funds. And that percentage can range. It's been as high as 100% when the program first started, because more and more towns are now participating. That number goes lower as more and more towns are there. So it's been about 22% the last 5 years on average. I think I put it in my notes here somewhere. And the conversation piece, one, feel free to ask me any questions about we've had a couple meetings.
Printed out some
Thanks.
pictures of towns that are doing.
Yeah, it's a significant number of communities. So it's about 200 communities that are participating. And one of the discussion points that I think is important Sorry, that, one of the conversation points that I'd like to get from you, from this committee is what could we use this for in the recreation committee? What could we have used it for? Right? So think about Birch Meadow master plan. If we had done the CPA years ago, we could have been accruing matching funds from the state and Birch Meadow master plan, phase 1, phase 2, it would cost a little bit less to our taxpayers, or allowed us to do more, right? So it's not, when the CPA when this ad hoc committee makes a recommendation of how to proceed, how to present it to the town, how to present it to town meeting, how to get the town to, ideally putting it on a ballot so that the town is voting on this, because it's obviously an additional charge, and we want to be very conscious of what people are going to be spending on coming up. But what could we have done if we had adopted this 10 years ago? How many hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars have we lost out on because we didn't do it years ago? And then what's the opportunity cost that we lose if we don't do it now? So those are a few broad questions, but I just want people's thoughts on CPA and in general. Kev first.
Where are the overlaps of what we're already looking at in the foreseeable future?
So certainly the Birch Meadow, I mean, I had the Birch Meadow master plan is certainly one thing that you rehab the Pleasant Street facility. Yes, it could actually be used as, it could be used from a recreation perspective, but also it's a historic building, I believe. So
Yeah.
it falls under historic preservation as well. So it's a couple different ways to kind of use CPA, to get CPA matching funds for that.
What is the makeup of the people who make the allocations, and how is money allocated?
Money is allocated through a formula, base, and I don't want to go through the math, but it's on the website. It's definitely invite all of you to go.
No, I don't mean from the state. I mean, if this were adopted, how is the money allocated?
So this commit, the ad hoc committee is to make a recommendation. If it is passed, then a committee would be formed, which would be advising on how to disperse the money.
Right.
And allocate it. So I think it's up to us to determine kind of like the makeup, or there are
I
recommendations.
think from the last meeting, it was either select board or town meeting or both. Last meeting.
No, I think that there's a very specific.
Yeah, it's specific.
Oh, I mean, it would be similar, like members of the different communities, of the different committees.
Right. Okay, so my point is though, that if it were adopted, there are many other uses for CPA money.
Oh, yes.
And recreation was just added.
A little bit of it, not.
Yeah, recreation actually was just added as one of the uses more recently. It was always like historic preservation and housing and those things. And it's only recently that recreation has been added to it.
I don't think so, Angela. I think it's always been, but to your point, it's always been primarily historic preservation, conservation, that sort of stuff. But I think recreation has always been a component.
I don't think it was. I think it was added, it's been added more recently because when we tried to pass it a long time ago.
Went down in flames.
It went down in flames.
It did.
It did.
Did.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And Eric's right. It was just such a lost, here we are 10 plus years out.
Yeah.
It was a lost opportunity on our part.
Yes. Yeah.
Hold on.
No, I was gonna say, for your record, I think like lights would have been a good thing to use it for,
All these.
It's you're looking for suggestions. I mean, I think like lights.
Can I have lights, please?
Is something that, you know, from a town standpoint on the Birch Meadow, that, you know, was something, you know, from a field standpoint, everything, that
Yeah.
whole area. So we should think about,
Makes the fields more usable.
Resurfacing, whether it's Bancroft tennis courts, Memorial.
yeah,
Because it started was just done. Because it started.
Yeah.
But actually,
Barrows is coming up.
Barrows is coming up. Right?
Yeah,
Barrows-
Barrows.
There's a lot of things that. I don't know if dog park would be considered recreation. Just- No.
yeah, I don't know either, but I mean, that's,
Yeah.
It's not recreation. I think it's for the people.
Dog your people too, Carlo.
I think it's for the people.
yeah, but yeah, that's to me.
No, that's,
I
that's
mean,
a
I
great
think
one.
lights and like resurfacing it to me is a big thing, you know,
Yeah.
it's a quick hit.
Because when we, obviously, these type of things need to have some, you have to make the justification.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And so I think a big piece of that justification is going to be, what could we have done with it? What do we want to do with it
Yeah.
in the future? How could we have saved money? How will we save money?
Did anybody do the retroactive math?
So that's gonna be the follow-up. Once for the next meeting, where we are going to, everybody went to their respective committees,
Mhm.
gather up some ideas. And then as a committee, we're gonna say, all right, how can we do this retroactive math? How can we kind of figure out what we could potentially have gotten?
Yeah, we go to the town count, excuse me, and say,
Yeah.
what did we spend?
What have we spent on these things over the years?
Well, no, I meant more,
How much money would?
how much would we have gotten?
Yeah. No, it's,
Like irrespective of what
Well,
the
the formula
projects.
keeps on changing, that's the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
so-
It's a lot less.
But we
in
could,
the beginning.
but we can go, there's a history of the last 20
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
So we could go back and, we could be conservative and say, look, just over the last 5 years, this is what the match would have been. And this is how much we would have saved on projects like, and then you list out the projects.
Okay, but your taxes have gone up. I think,
So,
honestly,
Yeah.
CPA right now with Killam and
Big.
with Killam and a senior center, it's a really big ask. A CPA is a
And
really
I'd be
big ask.
interested to know what didn't we get to do because we didn't have a CPA? Nothing.
Nothing.
could have thought bigger.
Good point.
We have.
We've always, the community has always come forward and
Could have more turf fields. It could have more lights.
where are we gonna put, we have, we only have one field that we can't have turf, we don't have turf on now, and that's behind Coolidge.
It is in effect an override.
Yeah.
Oh.
And yes, we target it, but.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
a tax.
a tax. So there are some,
And you get a little kicker from
there
the
are some numbers. The one thing that I would say about this is that it is a tax that gets an immediate return, and it's a match, right? So whether it's 22% or 26% or 17 or 33, you're getting, what the money that you put in, you get some money back, right? So it's right. So it's a little different from, we need $100 million for Killam, or we need 50 million for recalc, or whatever it is. The numbers are much, much lower, right? So I think it from a selling perspective and kind of like a convincing perspective, it's a little.
It gets your projects at
It's-
20% off.
Yeah, I mean, so you put a little bit of money in and you get your projects for 20% off. I mean, it's an investment but you see return on it. We're gonna spend a lot of money on Killam, you're gonna spend a lot of money on a new senior center. And yes, we as a community will benefit. But we will benefit years down the road. This can impact now. And, and again, it's relatively small dollars. There's some levers that you can pull to lower it, to reduce the impact on, lower income.
It's like 100,000.
Up to 100,000 of your property value can be exempt from the property tax that it considers. So.
And what is it, up from 1 to 3%?
1 to 3%.
Actually, it's 0.5.
Oh,
Yeah, you can dial it back.
But every time you change the percentage, you have to go to town meeting.
and it's, once you've done it, it doesn't come up again.
No, so that's
Or
what Carl,
does it?
what Carl was saying is that he's raised the point before that it's really important that when we do make the ask, we do make a recommendation that we get as close to right as possible. Obviously, you can never fully predict the whims of voters. But you know, if you go for 1% and then you realize that was too much or too little, you would have to go back to the voters to make a change. So if it gets accepted at 1% and then everybody's like,
Yeah.
well, this is great. We should have done 3%. We would have gotten more money, right? Because the state gives you additional funds the more you put in.
I don't think anyone's saying
But,
that. I know what you mean, I know what you mean, I know what you mean.
but regardless of what we choose to change,
right.
it would require.
We have to get it close
Yeah.
if we can.
We want to make this a reasonable ask. I personally don't think we'll be anywhere near the 3%. I think people would really hesitate, but I think there's good.
And it has to go through town meeting and then a referendum, right?
We,
Ballot.
because we got delayed.
Oh, it's a ballot.
The CPA people said that the success rate is higher when you have it in a presidential year. So the goal was to have started this maybe 2 or 3 months ago. We had 2 meetings.
Yeah, the committee didn't
Two-
form
two
early
meetings.
enough.
Yeah, so, you know, a number of circumstances, but we didn't start it when we wanted to, so now. If we can grind it out, we have to still be done by like summer. In summer.
But doesn't it have to go to town meeting before you can have it on a ballot?
No, just a ballot.
Oh, that's how we did it last time. We
Yeah,
voted on
we
it
voted
at
on
town meeting.
Town
And
meeting,
in town meeting,
Elections before town meeting.
what?
The elections.
no, we
It
voted
has
on
to
it.
Be approved by town.
It has to
meeting.
be approved to
And then
go on a
go on.
ballot. It's just like an override, same thing.
The override is just select.
No, you have to get it in November town, it's not
Right,
gonna
you're
make
right.
November ballot,
No.
because town meeting.
You can call it a special town meeting.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do-
Because Karen. that's also-
Wow,
that's
the
Karen,
option-
but Karen was advocating for CPA and she said, if we get on the November ballot, the success rate is typically higher.
It's like 80%,
Which is
80%
before town
success rate
meeting.
versus 50%.
Right, it has to be a special town meeting.
Right.
A special town meeting to,
One night.
But it's basically to put it on, to put it onto the November.
But the special town meeting has to be in August.
Yeah.
And it's June.
But it's not that, I hear what you're saying, Eric, but I can guarantee you that's a 5-hour discussion.
Oh, yeah.
To put it, it's not gonna be, oh, we're just putting it.
Again, so each of our meetings, you know, we will be discussing in depth kind of like what is the best path forward and
Timing.
the timing is got to be part of all of our conversations. And, you know, I think we agree. It's the goal of the whole committee is to have a recommendation, like to get it onto the November ballot. However, because the committee formed so late, the original charge is still there, but it's just more implausible because the timing is
Yeah,
not
We
good.
don't want to rush it.
So we wouldn't rush it just to get it on there. We'd rather do it right and have kind of like our talking points and have our presentation and be ready. So,
Even if we want, even if we want it in the spring election, we'd have to have a special town meeting, because the spring election is before town. is
Yeah.
before
well, you could.
You would have it on November town meeting.
You could put it on the November
put it on.
town meeting
Yeah, right.
and then
Do it.
Yeah.
do it in the spring.
Right,
Yeah.
right. If the timing works out correct.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is try and jam it through.
No.
That's just gonna
We
interrogate a lot of people.
have to make the best presentation possible.
So
Wrong word.
So I'm feeling,
Antagonize.
like things are kind of flipping. Because I was on the historical commission and I advocated for it, and now I don't support it for a lot of reasons. And I'm seeing an audience that probably didn't vote for it before. And I'm
Yeah, so that's the update. And if you, yeah, I mean, the idea, you know, I'll myself or Carlo will, when we're here in meetings, we'll we'll give you updates as to where we're at, just to keep.
I think your key marketing is what didn't I get?
Yep.
Because we didn't have this and I haven't heard anything yet.
No, I didn't get, if you think someone brought up a good point at the financial forum, that, like, for me, what I think it was actually Michael that said it, was, and Peter referenced like 20% off, it's, we get money and it goes towards a project, and that leaves us more money for something else in the budget.
Yeah.
Right, that's all these 4 buckets that we can apply the money to. So, right, our taxes go up. And for each house, home, family, it's gonna be a different amount based on their taxes, but, and that's gonna be the sell. If we have to sell this as a benefit. I know what you're saying, Chuck, but it's, our free cash is going down, right? The budget keeps on going up, our payroll, everything is going up, even without COVID. COVID's made it much worse. DPW and the equipment we have to buy, fire trucks, everything is 20, 30, 40% more. So hopefully that will break at some point. We can get back to where the normal is again. And it just frees up more money, basically, the way I look at it. The benefit frees up more money to put, like, say, we're Barrows on what, 26, 27?
Barrows down the road. We started doing small improvements, but.
Right. So let's say Barrows could be done in, say it's gonna be scheduled for 28, we can do it in 26, because we have money.
Parker needs new turf.
Whatever, that money can be utilized towards that project, and that frees up money for other projects that aren't related to the CPA. Right, CPA money is for 4 different buckets.
Yeah, there's also the one other element of it that is a good convincing talking point is that many towns have used CPA funds to go after grants and other like funds from the state in other ways. So they'll take their $30,000 or their $50,000 and kind of do a feasibility study for a project. And then the state matches it up to like 10, 12 times. And all of a sudden you get a multiplier out of your CPA money. So, and a lot of towns have had success doing that. So again, we'll compile these examples and different things. And we're very early stage here. So but more to come.
Can I ask about the elephant in the, not in the room, the town? What does the MBTA communities potentially affect CPA? Trying to do too many things at once.
How does that affect?
No, how to like the fact that this is
Totally separate.
Yeah, okay.
Totally separate, yeah.
Oh, it's
That's,
just,
you get,
there's
there's
just
a basketball game.
I know, I was gonna.
to do, that's it. People are being told, yeah, committees are full, yeah.
All right,
Here.
recreation administrator and program coordinator report.
And then I said we keep it short. I'm not doing photos in the interest of time.
So, yeah, we've just been gearing up for the summer. Our first of many summer programs started today with the football clinic. I discussed it earlier with the varsity football coach and his staff. We have our summer counselor orientation tomorrow night. Vacation starts next week from the 24th. Next week is really our first full slate of summer programs. We have about 350 kids signed up for that week across everything we're offering. So pretty happy with those numbers. Kind of light for the 4th of July week, and then we pick right back up for the full load again for the rest of the summer through July and August. I've been already starting the planning for fall programs, reserving space through facilities and just getting things organized there. So I just wanted to mention, I know we've had a couple of ideas come, for programs in this room. So I'm just working on those things now. So, if you hear anything, like always, if you have ideas, just let me know. I'm always happy to explore things, and it's better to do it now than, in September. I wanted to start in a few weeks. So just wanted to put that out there.
Awesome.
Good job. when I was running the numbers from last year, we are already up, as far as what we brought in last year. We're up, I set a goal of, making 25 more grand this season than we did last year. And we've already surpassed that. So a lot of that is coming through programming. So big kudos to Ed for helping out. He's not even a year in, and I think he's had a huge impact, to date. So pretty happy right now. So keep going up. All right, for me, the batting cage at Simon's Way, complete. It's all set. There is some little landscaping they're hoping to get done. They did ask me to ask DPW if they could help in a little bit, but the batting cage looks great. The turf is down. They put sand in it, like conservation had asked. So that's all set to be used. The repairs over at the Birch Meadow batting cage over by Morton/Moscarello Park, that has been finished up as well. It kind of got damaged when we had that fence up during phase one of the Birch Meadow project. Kids were jumping over it, and whoever installed the fence, they didn't use a heavy gauge fence and didn't use aluminum poles. So Peter Siebold came in, he took care of that. I think he finished it up a week and a half ago. So that looks nice as well. So that whole area is coming together. Some of the grass is starting to come in as well. It's probably going to die over the next few days, but it'll come back again at some point. And then the Challenger baseball game that we approved, the amplified sound, I did see photos. I don't know if you were there, Bob.
I
heard
was.
It was a massive success.
It was a tremendous turnout. And the weather was not great, like, rain was threatening, was threatening the whole morning, and it held up luckily until the end, and then everybody scattered, but it was a great turnout.
It's great.
Hopefully they can do it again.
And then lastly, the Friends of Reading Recreation fireworks this past Saturday night. It was packed. I don't know if anyone got
Nice.
to go there. You lost your child there, but you found her.
Technically, two of them,
But I want to say there was close to, 800 to 1,000 people. Those fields were absolutely packed, and I think it's the best show I've seen, probably 7 or 8 of them. I think it was the best to date. The music that they had, it just matched with the fireworks. It was a good show. Weather was perfect. Wasn't windy, didn't have anything burn or any shrapnel blow on any of the turf fields. DPW was out there right away on Sunday. They brought their sweeper on Morton Field. Ed and I walked it today. We maybe had a small little handful of just little cardboard shells. So I just want to thank DPW they were there the entire day. They went out on Sunday. They cleaned everything up, got rid of the trash, the Reading Fire. I think they had 3 trucks there, and they had about 5 staff. And the Reading PD as well was there, making sure it was all good. It was interesting with the pavilion. The middle school kids definitely hung around a lot longer, and they all gravitated towards the pavilion because it's a lighted area. But I didn't hear any reports of any trouble or anything being damaged. So I think it was a great event.
I would say you usually don't have to worry about the lighted area with teen. It's the dark areas that you get worried about.
But no, I heard nothing but good things from there. So that's
Thank
all I
you,
got.
thank you, Jim.
Yeah, it's great.
You were there on,
I get to hang out. It's
on a Saturday, so that was good. Nice. Thank you for doing that.
No worries at all. That's all I got.
All right.
We good?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, we'll go around the room.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Roll call.
Yeah, we'll get there. Kate,
Yes.
Bob, Peter,
Yes.
and yes, we are adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.